KPD, we will have taken the first step to building trust back in these communities, because without building trust among those communities, we just won't have effective policing in KCK. But thank you for your responsiveness and announcing a public input process. Thank you for that first step, and let's listen to that input and get to work for a better KCK. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before you step away, I know that several of us probably were capturing the questions that you asked. I captured them as how many groups, how many people in each group.
Yes.
Number three, the criteria being used for selection into a group.
Yes.
And the third one, who decides, and then I lost it.
Sure. Who decides which to get into the focus groups? And then fourth, will you make sure that there's representation in the focus groups from Black and brown communities, immigrant communities, and women?
And I'm sorry, I still didn't catch number three. Who
Sure.
decides what?
Will you make sure?
No, not that one. Number three.
Number three was who will be the one deciding who gets into the focus groups?
Okay, thank you. Who decides the makeup of the focus group?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We will have staff try to follow up with answers for those. And that is the last item on this agenda. Our Public Works and Safety meeting is adjourned. And Mr. Groneman, as always, thank you so much. And I will turn this over to Commissioner Markley for Administration and Human Services.
All right. Okay, that's better. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You'll have up to 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward. Everyone, use your microphones. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Gilbrook. Here. Kane. Here. Ramirez.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Markley.
Here. We have no revisions to tonight's agenda, nor do we have any minutes to consider this evening. So our first item is regarding elected official terms. Item number 1 is a request to amend the term of UG elected officials and the meeting schedule. If you'll recall, we discussed this at our previous standing committee meeting but did not take action. Ken Moore has volunteered to take that item.
Thank you very much. As presented last time, we came with some different alternatives on what our options were under the recent Kansas legislation. Thank you. Oh. So this is a history that was presented last time, and it shows how the terms of the various local offices changed from the odd years to the even years, and then it went to beginning of a January term. Until last year, the legislature amended the statute to allow a city, but did not require, that a city adopt a resolution allowing the term of office to commence on or after December 1st, but no later than the second Monday in January. And based on the comments of the Standing Committee, one of the questions was, should we alter that commencement date? And the indication I got was that yes, they should. So we amended ordinance section 2-52 so that the term of the mayor and the commissioners would begin on the Monday before the second commission meeting in December. We felt this would allow enough time to complete the election, the canvass, allow some time for some orientation, but still not have a big lag between that and the January date. The next issue was what offices should be combined, because there was some discussion that it also could include the Register of Deeds and the Sheriff's Office, since they were part of the consolidation study report that include those offices in the local elections. And the direction, I believe, was that we should do that. So the change to that second, or the Monday prior to the second meeting in December, was also changed for those two offices. And then the third thing was kind of just a cleanup detail, was to amend the commission meeting schedule so that the meeting would be adopted shortly after the new commission took place. And so we amended Section 2-57 so that the calendar, which is adopted every 2 years, would be adopted at the second commission meeting in December. And that's really the genesis or whatever, and the reason for the current ordinance under consideration, and we'd ask that be adopted or approved.
Questions? Commissioner?
Just a quick question. I'm sure you know the answer to this. But as I was perusing this fine document, I was wondering, somewhere else, it says that each one of the alternating terms, both of them are 4-year terms, and to elect half at a time. That's somewhere else in the document.
Correct, that is not under one of the ordinances that we're amending.
Huh?
That's in a different section, it's not.
That's why I'm just asking. Making sure, because when you read a little piece, you always like to know what it relates to.
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Roll call. Gilbrook.
Aye.
Kane. Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Moving right along, we are going to talk about boards and commissions, which is a related item, and Chief Counsel Moore is here to present that as well.
This one was not as so easy. And I'm still not sure we have it right, quite frankly.
Well, it's the beginning.
That's kind of my thought. And so kind of what I'm proposing at this time is that we just kind of lay out our methodology of how we went about adopting the rules for certain committees. And what I did is I just addressed the committees that are listed in Chapter 2. I mean, we have committees that are in Chapter 8, Chapter 18, Chapter 25. I mean, they're throughout the code depending on the function of the committee. But what I wanted to focus on was the ones, we have, I believe, like 11 committees that are in Chapter 2, some of which each one of the commissioners appoints one member to, some of which have a hodgepodge of membership. So I basically addressed those, and what I tried to do is to go through these are the objective is to try to standardize the nomination, appointment, and the terms, how vacancies are result, how members can be removed, and the rules applicable to the meetings for those committees that the members are appointed by the UG commissioners and contained in Chapter 2. So it primarily addresses those 6 committees. I think Commissioner Bynum asked about the Development and Disabilities Advisory Board. Well, that committee still exists in Chapter 2, but in Chapter 18 we combined the Disabilities Advisory Board with the Human Relations Board.
Yeah.
I really have to find out if that's a separate. I'll have to rely on Mr. Cross, my boards and commission expert, to tell me if that is a separate board or if we just have 2 ordinances to govern that, so we can clean that part up too. But those are the kind of the 6 primary commissions or committees that we looked at. The other thing is that it has limited application to those committees that the commission does not appoint members to. For example, the Mayor's Council on Domestic Violence, the Teen Advisory Council, those are primarily just committees appointed they're kind of ad hoc committees in some ways, but most of the membership is appointed by the mayor. The Public Building Commission, we have a separate charter ordinance which defines those members, and they're by office, and so they're not really commission appointments. And the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board is a statutory creation that, again, defines on who's on that committee. Again, and this is what I alluded to earlier.
So does that mean none of those committees that you just mentioned were voted in? None of those committees were voted in by the full commission. They were just appointed by the mayor. I'm just asking.
Well, there's different contents, I guess. I guess what I really mean to say is that the draft ordinance I've submitted does not affect the composition of those particular committees. The ordinance that I
Didn't answer
submitted,
my question, but that's okay.
okay, I mean, I
I'll
can
get it
look,
later.
I can go through them and tell you,
He
but,
kind of did. He said there are different methodologies, so we may be approving some of the mayor's appointments,
That's what I'm
but
asking.
we are not the ones appointing.
No, I
that makes
understand that difference. I just wanted to make sure that I understood whether we were, if these were something that he brought before us, or she, if we get a female mayor again, that, that we were asked to vote them in, or he just, put them in. That was the question.
the Mayor's Council on Domestic Violence has no set number. The mayor appoints all the members representing local groups.
Okay.
The
Sorry, Ken.
The Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board has 16 members, 6 of which are by their official capacity, the sheriff, the police chief, the district attorney, and 1 member's from Bonner Springs, 1's from USD, the 3 different school districts. So, and there's 3 members appointed by the Board of Commissioners. And the UG staff recommends those, and the commission appoints them.
Thank you.
Let's see. The Teen Advisory Council is 10 persons reflective of the community who either work or volunteer, appointed by the county administrator, subject to the approval of the mayor. And the commissioners may make recommendations for nominations.
Okay.
So that's, they're just separate from where you each get 1 appointment.
Right.
Okay, again, these are other boards contained in other chapters other than Chapter 2, which are not addressed in the draft ordinance which is submitted. So what I tried to do is standardize the general process for how members are nominated, how they're appointed, the terms, when the term starts, and that things of that nature. So, and then what I did is I deleted the portions that duplicated that in the individual sections or that contradicted this type of stuff. So I really just have some general provisions at the beginning of the chapter which outlines the general things that are applicable to all the commissions it affects. So the members are nominated by a commissioner, but subject to the approval of the full commission. There's language in there that the terms coincided with the term of the appointing commissioner, but then there was language in there that the term would begin on March 1st or April 1st. So I just left it as the terms coincide. So on the day your term starts is when you're able to appoint people to those boards. My thinking, and this is for discussion, but my thinking was that there are also specific provisions in there that the existing members stay on the board until their successor is appointed. So it's not like you just have a bunch of vacancies. The other people would remain until the successor is appointed. Some boards had this, some others did not, but that your office is automatically forfeited for failing without excuse to attend 3 consecutive meetings. That's excuse from the board chair. The members serve without compensation, but there's provisions that they can be reimbursed for expenses. And members can be removed by the nominating commissioner or the mayor, just for, like I said, for pleasure, if you will. I mean, there doesn't have to be any cause. So if a particular commissioner nominated someone, but they did not like how that board member, excuse me, was doing the job or not attending meetings or whatever, they can move to have that board member removed. But since they only appointed and the full commission actually appointed since they only nominated and the full commission appointed, the full commission would have to approve that removal. And any commissioner can have any board member removed, but only for cause and only after a hearing and only after approval by the entire commission.
I think Commissioner Bynum has a question. I just want to clarify that last point. So it says by approval of the full commission, and you said, or removal for cause by approval of the full commission, but it'd actually just be a majority of the commission, correct? Or would it
Correct.
have to be
I'm sorry, yeah,
unanimous?
by 6 votes.
Okay.
It takes 6 votes to appoint a member, by 6 votes of the full commission to appoint a member, so 6 votes could remove a member.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. So on this slide, where the second item is terms coincide with the term of the appointing commissioner, so if I am sworn in December, but I fail to make an appointment until May, that person's term is still up at the end of my term, whether they served 4 years or not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to the very next bullet point, I'm sure it's important. When
I guess
I get
my thinking was is that instead of, because I think initially there's some, and this is again a subject for discussion, but initially there was some discussion that, you needed some time to get people on these boards.
So I think what I'm thinking, I apologize. I think what I'm thinking with regard to this one is, I've got several members of boards and commissions that I had to reappoint, because of course we had that 6-month lag time, if you will, from when I was first elected to the second time I was elected, and there's that 6-month period of time because those dates changed. And I had commission appointments that expired, and I had to reappoint them, and we voted on them. And for whatever reason, those appointments are expiring again within a year of me having just reappointed them. And I'm thinking of that scenario where you might have an appointment that's expired, but we are saying that whether your term's expired or not, you're going to serve until your successor is appointed. Am I stating that correctly or incorrectly?
No, that's correct. If you come into office and you're sworn in and you know that you have people you want to put on certain boards or committees, you can appoint them at that point in time. If you need time to do that, or if you're satisfied with the existing person, you can either appoint them again or you can wait. So there's no deadline for when you have to make an appointment, but that term would start the same day yours would. And the person before, again, would continue to serve until their successor is appointed. Now, they can obviously resign, which would create a vacancy, which would, I guess, cause action, but that was the thinking behind that.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. On the very last item, when we say can be removed by other commissioners for cause, is that in the current ordinance?
Yes.
And when we say for cause,
Well, it's in the current ordinance for some, but not all, so I just standardized it for all.
and, okay, I'll leave it at that.
Commissioner Kane?
Kenny, if they automatically forfeit if they missed it, so if they miss 3 in a row, they're gone no matter what. There's no decision.
No, there's no action required by the commission. If the clerk if they're notified by the chair they've missed 3 consecutive meetings without an excuse, then there's no action required and it creates a vacancy, which the appointing commissioner would then have to fill.
What happens if they're late all the time? Does that make a difference?
Well, it's fails to attend, so I guess if they're late all the time, and that was a problem for the appointing commissioner, that could be addressed in the next to last. You can have them removed by the nominating commission with the approval of the nominating commissioner, by the approval of the commission.
Good.
Commissioner Philbrook?
So, when you say coincide, so I understand the coincide part, but let's say you get reelected, do you need to bring forward that slate of people that you want put back on? I mean, is it back on, or they still stay because you're staying?
Well,
I'm just asking.
No, in some ways, that gives some flexibility because there's no requirement that you appoint people by a certain time.
No, I
If you're
understand.
reelected and you want to wait to see, you can do that, I think.
No, but I don't mean that. I'm just asking because it coincides with my term, so my term's up and I don't get reelected, I understand that. But if I get reelected, if I should run again and I get reelected, do I need to put all those people forward again to be put back on those committees? That's the question.
I would think yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I think a delay in doing that would keep the people there to extend, that they would remain in that position.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or specific discussion points on those issues we just discussed? Okay, forging ahead.
Okay. It also standardized that 51% of the membership constitutes a quorum. Many of these committees, of course, are 11 members since you each appoint one, but some are 12. For example, the Housing Authority is 12, so they would have to have 7 members to constitute a quorum. But action can be taken by a majority of a quorum, and this is similar to the Planning Commission as opposed to the UG Commission. This operates the same way as the Planning Commission does. If they have a quorum, if the majority of the quorum takes action, then that's acceptable. Whereas the commission, you have to have 6 votes to take action. Meetings are called by the chair. It can be held anywhere within the boundaries of the operation of the committee. That's kind of important because some of these committees, maybe not these, but some have to deal with people in Leavenworth, for example, if that was to be necessary. And something that, again, we standardize is that they're to keep minutes, and those minutes are to be filed regularly with the clerk, and you are to get copies of those minutes so you know what the committees do with your weekly business material, routine business materials.
Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. So going back then, 51% of the membership constitutes a quorum. I think going back then, we do need to identify, since one of the boards that we are saying these changes will impact is listed as Wyandotte County Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board, and we actually combined that with Human Relations, I would like clarity around whether the Advisory Commission on Human Relations and Disability Issues is in fact one of the boards that would fall under the 51% of the membership constitutes a quorum. That is one of the issues that board was facing regularly.
Well, and I think when we combined those boards, what we did was we allowed all existing members of both boards to be retained until their terms expired, and then there's only ones that reappointed was the idea. But since half of them weren't showing up to begin with, I'm not sure how that actually functioned in practice.
And I have to look into that more because like I say, I think there may be a conflict because the Wyandotte County Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board's in Chapter 2. It's 11 members appointed by the 11 of you. But Chapter 18 is the one I think that has combined because that's the chapter on human relations, and combine that, and it has a different makeup, a different composition.
I guess I would say in response, I do make a nomination to the Advisory Committee on Human Relations and Disability Issues, but I have not been asked to make a nomination to WDDS ever. So
when we worked on this, Angela and I, and, yes, sorry, Commissioner Markley and I, and one other person, we did intend for those to be combined as one, because we thought that that definitely needed to be a part of the other committee, because and if you have a reason, if you can tell us why you really don't think they belong together or come back later with that, that would be great.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just more confused as to how this is listed in our code more than anything else. Because there's an editor's note on both of those sections, which says what happened back in 2016.
Yep.
but I'm not sure it is carried through in our code.
Well, so I guess we need to address that, huh?
Yes, we do.
And can we?
Commissioner Kane.
Are we ready to go forward with this next thing, or do you want more time?
Well, in some ways, I guess I feel comfortable with what I've done with just the committees that I've addressed, but I do have some questions on that one. So maybe I should say no.
Okay.
Is there more presentation that we should go through to make sure we don't have additional feedback if we're gonna, okay, well, there we go. Is there any additional feedback other than concern about that particular committee's status before we send Ken out to help figure out what that committee's status is?
Just another, I'm sorry, just
'Cause
another
I'm-
question. Back before we combined those two, or thought we did, WDDS was actually an entity, Gordon, you're the expert here, that entity received mill levy support in the budget for their services.
Correct.
And it just makes me wonder if there's a statutory component to that side of it.
The Advisory Board on Wyandotte County Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board, I believe under the State DD Reform Act, that is a required provision under state statute. We combine the Human Relations Commission and the Commission on Disability Affairs, which was different than this board.
Okay, because what I'm saying is, if I request my list of boards and commissions tomorrow, I'm confident that I am not going to see WDDS listed as one of the boards and commissions that I need to make an appointment to, because I think it doesn't exist anymore. That's what I'm saying.
The committee that's listed in Chapter 2, that's the one that has provisions about the mill levy and setting all that.
Right.
The one in Chapter 18 with the Human Relations Board does not have those provisions. That's pretty much a creation of the commission as opposed to, any statutory authority. So I'm leaning towards the Chapter 18 committee, unless Gordon can help me there, is maybe the one that's duplicative as opposed to the one that's in Chapter 2.
I think the Advisory Board on Disability, let's see, where is that? Wyandotte Developmental Disability Advisory Board. I think by statute, that board is made up of parents and providers of services to folks with developmental or intellectual disabilities. The Human Relations Commission and the Advisory Commission on Disabilities is what we combined, I believe, with the Human Relations Commission.
Yeah, in Chapter 18, it says that the Commission on Human Relations and Advisory Committee on Disabilities are abolished, and the Commission on Human Relations and Disabilities Issues is created. But there's still provisions in Chapter 18 about membership.
Okay, so I think if I'm trying to reflect the consensus of the group, that we have good feelings about the concepts presented here tonight, but we want to make sure that we are addressing those committees correctly. And if we need to make some edits somewhere else to make everything clear, that we are doing that as part of this package. Is that a good reflection of our feelings?
Yeah, I
Don't
think,
talk all at once.
I guess if these provisions here, you're satisfied with those being applicable to the ones where you appoint, and again, it's primarily the ones that you each appoint members to, then we can clean up the different committees and come back with a new and refined version.
Good. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Commissioner Ramirez?
And this is this is the first time I'll say it here, but this is probably a stupid question. Because in the section for the application of Division 1 saying that all of these new requirements are to be for all boards and commissions that have been created, is there, because I see that for the Housing Authority, there's 12, and the mayor has 2 appointments. Is there a reason for that?
The mayor has 2 appointments?
Well, it's because it says that, because the Housing Authority would fall under that, the commission would, all of us would have an appointment. That's 1 through 11, and then including the mayor. So, and then it says here, 12 shall be appointed by the mayor CEO. So that means the mayor would have 2 appointments.
Yes, his second appointment is actually a resident of the Housing Authority.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
clear that up. I was confused about that. Thank you.
And there are no dumb questions.
All right, anything else? Then we will expect to see Ken back with us to answer all of our difficult questions about what we did with some boards we thought we had combined.
In the meantime, are you asking for a vote on everything else?
Should we, Ken, is your preference that we move the rest of it forward, or that we just wait and clarify and then move it all forward?
I really think I'd rather wait because I want to make sure I'm clear on that Human Relations Board and make sure they're not duplicative. And which one I really feel that the one in Chapter 2 remains because that's the one that addresses the mill levy issues. But I want to make sure of that.
Okay, then we will wait. Thank you. All right, that takes us to item number 3, which is an update on our data team activities, and Alan House is here to present.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. We have an informational-only item here for you to end the evening, which is an update on the UG data team, and this is an outgrowth. Well, first I'll say, Commissioner Kane noted, I'm not feeling 100% today, so if I stumble over my words, that's why. So give me a little forbearance. In November 2016, the county administrator signed out an open data order and constituted in that an effort across departments to make UG data more available, more transparent, and available for not only internal departments, but for anybody who's interested. So you'll hear tonight an update on that journey. To my left is Judd Knapp, our UG data analyst, who's been working hard with his team on this effort. And so really, starting off using data to support commission priorities, so you go all the way around that wheel, and really in every area, we're using data, working with departments to support operational enhancements, operations, as well as policy that comes before this governing body. So really trying to infuse data into all aspects of the unified government. And as we go through the presentation tonight, you'll see at the bottom of the screen the link to the data portal, the open data portal. So those who are watching at home, if you want to pull that up, it's yourdata.wicokck.org. You can see the data that's available. So UG's data journey really began back in 2015, and I'd be remiss if I didn't note that Judd was one of the original people back in 2015 who was on that journey in the budget, at the budget office at the time. Started with opening up financial data. Then in 2016, the UG worked with What Works Cities and Bloomberg Philanthropies on a project that included as part of that the open data effort, and created a data inventory and open data policy and portal. 2017, Judd moved into the role as the first UG data analyst, began automating data sets and setting off a series of sort of process improvements. 2018, we began building internal data capacity. We started using the AmeriCorps Vista support for the first time and have had great success with that. And started kicking off a number of data projects. In 2019, that really began to shift to data storytelling, to working with data with external partnerships like Code for KC, as you'll hear a little bit about, supporting the land bank, Urban 3 analysis that the Commission saw last year, and neighborhood improvements. So again, through all of this, building capacity and infusing data into all aspects. But as Judd will be the first to tell you, it's not a straight line on this. It's really been a twisty turning road. So, one step forward, two steps back kind of thing, but making consistent progress in terms of the data sets that are available and the partnerships that are developed across the organization. And I sort of really wanted to focus and highlight that partnerships and people are really at the heart of this and the effectiveness of the data team to build and forge relationships with departments to be able to support them in what they're trying to achieve. It's not data for data's sake. It's really data for the efforts to improve and provide services to residents and businesses. So what are we doing with data? Making data available to everyone, using it as an enterprise-wide resource. So again, you think of that as something that's available to all departments. Supporting SOAR and the Neighborhoods Up initiatives, other core initiatives across the UG, data-driven decisions, neighborhood information, and then transparency. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Judd, and he's going to take you through the rest of the conversation here.
Hello. Through my part of this presentation, there's three things I want you to take away from it. What is data storytelling, improving our data management, and infusing data into the culture of our city. So what is data storytelling? Data storytelling is basically taking multiple data sets and combining them into one, so you can tell our story. A great example of this is with our Strawberry Hill story map. This initially started from answering the question, what do developers want to see in our community, and what do potential residents want to see? Like, can I provide that information to someone in one place? So let me open it up for you. All right, so the first item we have here is amenities in Strawberry Hill. So this is all the bars and restaurants that you could eat. The idea here is like, where's items that are walkable, so you can buy a house, and what I could walk down to Brits and have a Reuben. So we made a nice little infographic up. There's 11 bars and restaurants on our Strawberry Hill polygon. There's one farmer's market, one new dog park, 3 parks. So just to kind of just highlight what is around the area in Strawberry Hill. And then this is for like the developers. What have other developers have like invested in? What new businesses do we have in Strawberry Hill? There's Sarah's on the Hill, Slaps Barbecue, the Merc, and we have the Boulevard Lofts and the Y Lofts and the Reardon Center apartments on there too, as we're increasing our housing supply by 160 units. Residential activity. These are all the little dots are all the rehabs that happened since 2015, and we've had 43. This basically shows where people are investing into their own homes, or we have flippers investing into their homes. And we have our new residential units again at 160 with the Boulevard Y Lofts. Let's see here, and then we have travel times. This was basically, you are 8 minutes away from the River Market. This was basically made for the people that sit in traffic on I-35 coming from Johnson County. You're sitting in traffic, but yet you could come live in Strawberry Hill and be within 8 minutes of the River Market. In the news section is all the positive news stories that we've had. And you could click on it and you could see all of the news stories for each one of these. I believe there's 23 total positive news stories that we have. So just putting those all in one spot, and so everyone could see. And our infrastructure improvements, these are all of our public investments that are completed and our future investments. I believe you could click on it. Not working. Here's these roads were repaved in 2017. There's also what parks are in the area, and a proposed trail network. So, all right.
How many parks was that again?
3 in the Strawberry Hill Polygon.
Just in the little area right there?
Yes.
Just in that little bitty area? They had 3 parks. Wow.
There's
that'd be
St. John's, there's the Holy Family Park, and I believe the Polygon goes up to like way up north here, and it grabs Jersey Creek Park too.
3 parks.
Okay. All right. That's it. No. All right. All right, so this was another example of us using data. This is a very simple infographic that we created of how many yard extensions would it take to equal the tax revenue from one home. It's 115 yards extensions equals the value of one home. There's a lot of data behind this. We worked with economic development to identify the land bank properties, worked with finance to estimate the cost of a new home, and then we used appraiser data to figure out the value of a vacant lot versus a new home. So, I mean, this is a very simple graphic, but we're using data and people for all over the organization. Rob Anderson, our asset manager in Public Works, has the capital projects. He created this. He grabbed data sets that we've already made last year and threw them in here to add value to his work, like the UG portion of the tax roll, and then he put buffers around it for 250 feet, 1,000, and 1,500 feet to see how much value is around each project. The UG population estimate, he did this as similar buffers, how many people live under it, and our DMV registration, how many cars are within 1,500 feet.
Commissioner Bynum?
So just to stop here, I think this was what you all brought us in one of the Public Works presentations as we began looking at CMIP. And this is the section where it helps us to identify and understand better the cost, if you will, of the infrastructure that goes along with development. Is that fair?
Well, I'd maybe shift a little bit, and the cost is fairly straightforward in terms of estimating cost, and I think and Rob's here, so he could probably speak to it much better than I could, is the benefits, and the number of, it's getting closer to a return on investment kind of
Much better way to say it, yes. Thank you.
And I do have to say, Rob Anderson took this work and did it himself. He just grabbed stuff we've already previously done and just added it to it. So, our data was in the state of the government address. We worked with the mayor before the address and talked to him and seen what he was wanting in his presentation, and we came up with where's all our vacant lots, where is our community values increasing between 2018 and 19. The bottom left there is all the lots around Waterway Park. What happens if we put houses on each one of those vacant lots? How much tax revenue would we get? And where are all our completed rehabs? This is Urban 3. They're a consultant that we supply data to that specialize in tax productivity per acre. And they provided this great 3D map of where we as a city receive most of our tax revenue. It mostly comes from downtown, KU, and the Legends. there's property values, property taxes, and there's sales tax involved in this. And talking with them, they showed us another infographic from Lafayette, Louisiana, and it was pipe construction over time, and they combined that with population, and we in the data team and Public Works decided that we could probably make that. So we're going to run this. It runs from 1910 to 2010, and keep the population and the feet per pipe change every time. All right, so with this, you see in 1910, we have 1.12 feet of pipe, sewer pipe per person. In 2010, we have 30.10 feet of pipe per person. So our population increased 1.8. Our feet of sewer pipe increased 27 times during that same time. All right, so we thought this was so neat that why can't we try this with roads? So we did it with roads. We worked with Public Works again, and we actually had to travel to the Wyandotte Historical Museum and take pictures of old maps. And this one turned into where are roads that are city maintained. So this is the roads in the city limits over time. You could see in 1960, 1970, it really like blew up across the map. That was pretty crazy. And our population between 1900 and 2000 increased 2.8, and then our miles of road increased 9.6. So our second point is data management, and data management is how we handle data, how we clean data, and how we make it usable to everyone. This is the top pictures from our open data site. We are upgrading our GSS infrastructure, so we're going to get a new data portal here in late 2020. We're currently looking at other data portals now to see what they do great and try to copy that. We're going to have enhanced data sharing. It's going to be easier for me and the other departments to share data with each other. And we're going to have updating dashboards and targeted data. And targeted data is if I know what a developer wants to know, I can make a section just for them, so they click on it and have just the data for them. Or if I know what neighborhood groups want, we could add that data in there too. Just targeted data for them. Let's take a quick tour of the data site here. Okay, so here's our for developer section. And we have our Wyandotte County tax productivity, land bank, vacant lots, population density, the residential parcel information. We also have the My Sidewalk Chip dashboard and the SOAR dashboard. And we also have access to more data down here like dot maps, Municode, Lands Web, and Neighborhood Resource Center. So we're in part of data management. We're managing data as a core UG asset. In our software system upgrades, such as Excella, we're going to say no more text boxes because I can't really search a text box. I mean, someone could write the word weed, they could spell it right, they could spell it incorrectly, they could type it in as overgrown. It's very hard to get how many weed complaints we have. And then our data cleanup, setting data standards. I mean, we have 373 data sets in our city. Most of them collect addresses. So do they collect the house number the same way? It could be house, it could be address. The address could all be lumped together. We're trying to get that all the same. Melissa Seaven and the Land Asset Management team, we're cleaning up our UG tax delinquent records. And this is the third point of how we're infusing data in the culture of our city. This is kind of how my role has changed from when I first got hired and just open data to being more of a data analyst today. Other departments are using me a lot. I've done 15 projects for economic development, 8 for the Neighborhood Resource Center, 6 for Public Works. I mean, I'm just this asset that people use, and this is an example of economic development. The NRA online calculator it came out of a meeting with builders that said, we don't know how much the NRA calculator will save us. So we talked to Code for KC, and they designed us a calculator. We have a process map of building a new home. What's the process of that? And we have our downtown story map that you've seen and our land bank top 100. For our neighborhood resource center, we have the Find a Builder app. If you were looking for a home builder, this is every person that has pulled a building permit to build a new single-family home in Wyandotte County. MBR maps as part of our we shared data on parks, UG on land bank, vacant lots with all our MBRs. We have our vacancy registry list that we're working on, and our weeds repeat offenders that we're working on with codes. This year, we really tried to extend our external partnerships, how others use our data. We worked with Code for KC to build us that NRA online calculator. We're working with the KU Health System to figure out if we could help with health outcomes, share the data with the MBRs. The DOT agency is really good with external outreach, so we're going to try to get with them to get some help, and we're still working with What Works Cities. And finally, this is our WICO data team, as we like to call it, as we kind of branded ourselves. There is Vistas here. Vistas are here for 1 year. They're basically a volunteer. And this is the first picture over there is a picture from the Mayor's State of the Government address. And from the left is Alfred. He is still with us till May. And next to him is Hannah. She went to the University of Michigan to get her master's in GIS. And Rob Anderson is right next to him. And then, of course, me at the end. And on the Urban 3 presentation on the right is Maddie. She is now a current employee in Public Works. So she started as a Vista, but now she's a current employee. There's Alfred again, and there's Kirsten that's also part of the data team. And next to Kirsten is Joe Minicozy. He's the Urban 3 presenter. So that's it.
So that's the update on the data team, and just want to give you kind of a breadth and a flavor for the work and how that's evolved over time. We're excited about what 2020 holds.
Questions from the group? Thank you so much. It's amazing. And I think the hardest part that we're going to have to push to the public is I think people still go to the regular UG website and they're not finding what they're looking for because they're looking for this kind of information. And so if they come to me and ask, I'm telling them there's this, one step further. You have to go one step further to find this kind of information. So I think we have to keep I'm glad you're here tonight. I hope people are watching, and we got to keep getting the word out that if people are looking for that more in-depth data, they need to go to this other site and not to our primary UG website, because I think we're still seeing people go there and they're looking for this type of information and they're not finding it. So it's amazing information, and it's amazing that it's out there for the public to use. Anybody else? This was for information only. Thank you both so much. And that was the last item on our standing committee agenda. We do have a public agenda item. We have an appearance by Nicholas Novak. Please come to the microphone and state your name and city of residency for the record, and you'll be given up to 5 minutes to make your comments. Make sure your microphone's turned on there. The little light should be green.
Thank you. My name is Nicholas Novak. I'm a resident of Kansas City, Kansas. Thank you all for your time, and I appreciate your patience in this matter. In the black binder in front of you is some of the information that I'll be referencing. It's only about 5% of the information I've studied on this topic, but consists of the most direct and relevant information of my concerns. I've only got less than 5 minutes, so I'll dive right in. About 3 months ago, I was reading through some of our local news, the e-newsletter, and noticed that Mayor Alvey had affirmed, along with our governor, to bring in refugees for resettlement in response to Executive Order 1388, enacted September 26, 2019. Part of this executive order, in Section 1, plainly states that refugee communities are able and equipped for successful integration into becoming economically independent as part of the criteria for the refugees that are to be admitted. I have many concerns that KCK may not fill this criteria. The current cost of each refugee is approximately $49,555. As of 2018, this amounts to more than the average medium household income in Wyandotte County. The economic cost of these refugees, just as a state-funded metric, is quite high, and I'm wondering what is to be done to pay for these refugees, what information is available in the short and long-term planning for this settlement, and how we've made progress on this issue. My second issue regarding the settlement of refugees is to what degree is this based on political tribalism and top-down pressure from others within the Democratic establishment that is forcing these decisions to be made without the due diligence that's required? Is this decision being made in such a way as to ensure the process is operating in a pragmatic and successful way? Is this methodology being used in a way to ensure the long well-being of these refugees? And are we guaranteed to show a successful outcome with the refugees that we plan on resettling? I look forward to the reassurance from the committee. My second major issue of concern that is distinct from the refugee resettlement is the amount of illegal immigration currently within our county. According to the Migration Policy Institute, as of 2016, approximately 11,000 unauthorized individuals are currently living within Wyandotte County. I'd like to know what my local government is doing about this particular issue. The economic costs, both publicly and privately, are immense. Given that this current unauthorized residency has been existing for several years, I'm sure some of this and my response has already been taken into account, but I can't seem to find any information on this issue. I'm hoping for some clarification on this topic. Whether the issue is educational, socioeconomic, political, or even ethnic solidarity, I am sure there are reasons behind these issues and that they are being done for the best of intentions. However, we are all aware of the polarization that immigration has created in our nation, in our state, in our own locality. But, with all respect to everyone involved, just because an issue is uncomfortable, taboo, or a third rail, doesn't mean that serious, civil, and respectful adults cannot discuss these in an appropriate and dignified way. I appreciate your time in allowing me to speak on these matters, and am willing to address any questions or points of clarification regarding anything I've said. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I will just confirm that everybody did receive the binder he referenced. This is our final item for this evening, and we are adjourned.